Close my eyes, I open my heart. I'll take a deep breath, let the healing start. I lift my hands, I plant my feet, I let love in. I feel the beat that's calling us to rise, rise, Spirit rise up, rise in me. I let in my soul, I clear my mind. I'm here and now, in present time. The power of 1,000 suns lighting up the dark. Oh, we rise as one. Oh, rise, rise, Spirit rise up, rise in me. You sing to me, change up this noise, make sweet harmony. Come on and rise, oh rise, Spirit rise up, rise in me. To heart, hand in hand, no turning back, onward to promised land. Do you feel the power of 1,000 suns lighting up the dark? Oh, we rise as one. Love's calling, calling out your name. Love's calling, that's why we came. Love's calling, calling out your name. Love's calling, it's why we came. Rise,
Good morning again. Again, this is CSL Greater Boston coming to you live this week from Wells, Maine.
That's right.
And if you want to know a little more about us, you can go to our website, which is cslboston.org. And there's a lot of information there. And if you have any questions, you can always give us a call. And Rev G, why don't you put up the
one of our purpose
statements that I'd like to just read to everyone. And if you feel like reading it at home, you may. How we share our wisdom. Living a limitless life, we see through the eyes of love. Together, we reach our highest potential as a light in the Northeast and the world. Yes. And now let's personalize that. I always like to personalize it, and it just gives it to me, for us personally, like more meaning when we personalize it. Yes. So if you feel like saying it at home, go for it. How I share my wisdom. Living a limitless life, I see through the eyes of love. Individually, I reach my highest potential as a light in the Northeast and the world.
Indeed.
And so it is.
So it is. So why don't I go ahead and pray us in? Let's set the tone this morning to really pull ourselves together and get centered. Hopefully some of you were able to enjoy our wonderful meditation this morning. So let's just move within. Let's just move into that inner space, into that place where the infinite love of the universal one is experienced and known. Taking a deep breath and just filling the lungs with all of the love of spirit. And breathing that love out and allowing it to just surround you and everything around you. I know that there is only one power, one presence, one light, one love that is fully and wholly and completely lifting all of creation into a wondrous and glorious expression. For it is giving of itself to and as and through all of creation. It is the very life of that creation. It breathes life into all that is seen and unseen. It is awake and aware and alive, giving love and peace and joy and abundance and clarity and guidance and wonder and imagination and all of these amazing and powerful ideas that are all coming from that one emanating energy that I call the Mother, Father, God. This presence and this power that is expressing as me, is expressing as Rev Ed, is expressing as Karen and Rev Ami and anyone else who is alive with us and live in this activity right here and right now, and anyone who watches it in the future. For I know that this one power and this one presence is giving of itself in total and absolute oneness. And I surrender into that oneness as I claim and I declare right here and right now that this activity, this Sunday celebration service, is glorious and grand and wonderful and is a perfect expression of the one mind in form. I know that it is working in all the technology. It is working in each and every individual who is a part of this activity. And I am grateful and joyous and filled with overflowing wonder and peace as I let this divine presence do its wondrous and glorious work in gratitude and thanksgiving and a heart that is overflowing with gratefulness. I know that it is the Mother, Father, God's good pleasure to give the kingdom right here and right now, and I claim and declare that kingdom, and let it be so. As I release these words into the activity of law and know that they bring into form right here and right now this and something even greater. So I say, blessed be, amen, ashe, aho. And together we say, and so it is.
Mm-hmm. Well, that surely set the tone. Thank you, Rev G.
Yes, indeed.
Yes.
So, in 1927, Ernest Holmes was asked, what do you folks believe? And we have 11 wonderful statements that he created as I statements originally, because they asked, what do you believe, as a religious scientist, which is what we called ourselves back in the day. And he came up with these wonderful statements. And this is the 9th statement. And we read this together as a we statement, and then we'll do it as an I statement so that we can deepen it and empower it in our lives. So here is the we believe. We believe in the healing of the sick and the control of conditions through the power of this mind. And now let's personalize that with the I statement. I believe in the healing of the sick and the control of conditions through the power of this mind.
And of course, the mind is the capital M, meaning the
divine mind, or the infinite mind,
Yes.
that is the creative power and creative resource of all of life.
Yes.
And so the second song I really was called to play, because as we move into our new theme, which we'll be talking about in just a few moments, if we move into that new theme, we are moving into a place of really surrendering into the divine flow. So this song I found by Faith Rivera, and I really feel it speaks to that place where we are moving into in the month of September, as we are reaching higher. So just really listen and let these words fill you up, sing along and dance in whatever you are called to do.
I will surrender to my greatest, highest good. I will release any fear that blocks my way. For every step I take is taken in pure faith. And I am stronger every moment, every day. My mind is willing and my heart is open wide. I trust my instincts and let spirit be my guide. I vow to live a life that's real and pure and free, as I continue walking in this mystery. I surrender to my greatest, highest good. I release any fear that blocks my way. For every step I take is taken in pure faith. And I am grateful every moment, every day. There may be walls, there may be roadblocks in my way, but I can choose to take a higher path each day. And now I know what I thought was safe and sound was only habit and regret that held me down. I will surrender to my greatest, highest good. I will release any fear that blocks my way. For every step I take is taken in pure faith. And I am kinder every moment, every day. I'm more loving every moment, every day. I surrender every moment, every day.
So wonderful, so wonderful. And that is the whole idea of what, we have spent the entire month of August doing something in the way of opening to guidance and resting and rejuvenating. And now we're ready. we're ready to move into that higher place. So I thought that song was such a beautiful rendition. This morning we will be foregoing our reading. So we're just moving right into our talk this morning. And our talk this morning, of course, is following, as always, the Centers for Spiritual Living's global theme, which is, which I don't have that slide. Can you believe it? Which is the wisdom and goodness. Well, anyway, we will move on without that. As we move into what we are doing this month, and this month is, oops, I'm sorry, the wrong place. Perdoname. As we move into our September theme, which is reaching higher, and today we will be speaking about reaching higher. Now, as I said before, I should say our conversation, right?
Yeah.
So as I mentioned before, in August, we spent a lot of time rejuvenating, readying, resting, and really listening for that inner guidance and really listening for that higher calling that's coming into our life. And that brought about a lot of change for all of us, I know, and for us as a community, as that shift and change took place into the call that I have answered to move on, to listen to Spirit's message that I was done in CSL Greater Boston, or I was done in Boston. And so we're in a new place, and we are ready for reaching higher. We're ready for rising. You know, like that wonderful song that we just heard at the beginning of the service, rise, rise with me, rise with Spirit. So we are rising together. And so, Rev Ed,
Yes.
in the work that you've done in August, the things that you've done in August in your spiritual practice of, resting, rejuvenating, and listening for that inner guidance, have you had any wonderful revelations or activities in your life that have pushed you into a greater understanding?
Yes. Well, first I want to say sometimes the guidance we hear from Spirit is things we don't want to hear. Like when I first realized that part of that guidance was for me to step down as one of the spiritual leaders, because I knew that my path is going somewhere different. So when I first heard that, I want you to know there was quite a bit of soul searching and angst and like, what the heck is all this about? Everything is so nice. But last week, this last week, I have to say, probably one of the deepest divine revelations, without even setting myself up to be in a place. I was just sitting, and this divine revelation came through. And even before I share it, I want to say this. A lot of the work that, we do with our prayer partners is so important. And I have to say, my prayer partner always says the divine goes before and clears the way. So clearing the way, opening up for new experiences, opening up for new understandings, opening up for new freedoms that we experience when we listen.
Right.
So I'm going to share this. And believe me, this was very meaningful and deep for me. And I told you as soon as I got it, I went, oh my goodness. So to begin, a revelation I had was about the practitioners that you and I have birthed. Put it that way. Yes.
Definitely.
8 or 9 of them, the number I completely, I forget exactly. But when we first, I won't even say that yet. So we birthed 8 or 9 I believe it was 9 practitioners since we have been involved and created CSL, co-created CSL Greater Boston with the Divine. And now we have one practitioner left, active practitioner, member left
of our community.
And I must say, when I saw our practitioners kind of like going, I was like taken aback at one point. I had a lot of mixed feelings. Okay. And so much of that I put upon myself. Like I had feelings of sadness, feeling of desertion, feeling of maybe I didn't do a good enough job. You know, I really questioned, because I really believe everything begins with myself, Reggie.
It does.
Okay, so I had to see what was happening with me concerning all those feelings. And, you know, at times it was very hard for me, or challenging for me, with that, with the happening that, wow, we have one practitioner left. And this was the realization that came through, and I am so grateful that it came through, was that when Rev G and I were practitioners and we started the teaching chapter that then morphed into the center when we became ministers, right, Rev G? Here's the thing. We said we wanted to birth practitioners to go out into the world and spread this wonderful science of mind philosophy. We said that even before we were an official teaching chapter. Well, people, the divine gave us exactly what we wanted and worked for before we were even a teaching chapter. Right. I forgot that. And look at this. I must say, I am so freed and at peace now with what I feel and what I believe in relation to the wonderful practitioners that we birth. Yes. And I really am so proud of the work all of them are doing, taking this philosophy into the world. And I know that I will be definitely getting in touch with all of them to let them know how grateful I am, how proud I am, and what a great revelation this was.
Very nice. Very true. You know, I mean, we don't realize sometimes what happens in the world, or what we're doing in the world, or the difference that we're making in the world, until we look back, or we rest and we listen and get our little bloated nothingness out of the way, as Emerson so beautifully puts it. So as we talk about reaching higher, because that's what we're doing right now. We're reaching higher. The organization is reaching higher into a new way of being. And the Leadership Council is doing so much wonderful work in preparing for this whole shift and change, this transition that's taking place. And I want to gratefully thank practitioner Barbara Epstein for a question she asked me last week that allowed us to have a beautiful conversation about all of us and what we're going through right now. We are going through a major transition.
Yes.
And, you know, we talk about transition. When we talk about death in our organization, we say that someone transitioned, because we know that we are eternal and that we continue on in a different energy or whatever that is. And so we don't believe that death is an actual end.
It's a change.
It's a change. It's a simple transition into another way of being. As Ernest Holmes said, we go on to a greater plane, whatever that is. And so she was so wonderful in how she shared with me that there was some anger and there was some other things going on. And I said, well, of course there are. Because you're going through the mourning process. And the mourning process has anger, has, you know, what is it? I'm trying to think of the woman who came up with the 7 different things we go through when we mourn someone. And it's wonderful in that, yes, indeed, we are in a mourning process because something is dying. An old idea of Rev Ed and myself, or just myself, or whatever it is, however we are at this point, of being the spiritual leaders, no longer being the spiritual leaders in this community. So there's a shift and a change, and we need to honor that with ourselves. We don't spiritually bypass our mourning process.
No.
We always go through what we need to go through. And I always say, my phone lines are opened. I would love to hear if you have something going on in your heart, share that with me so that I can be a voice that can be on the other side of that, maybe, or maybe just someone for you to be able to release it to, so that then you can be free. And that's what we're here for, is to be a part of this beautiful transition and this beautiful change.
So I believe our life is our education. It's like our playground in education, our experiences and what we can learn and gain and share with each other.
Right.
Something that this made very prevalent for me is that a lesson that I guess for me, I had to remind myself, because when I had all of this change ideas coming through the divine,
right?
There was anger, there was sadness, there was grief, because it called for me to have major changes within my life, therefore affecting major changes within CSL Greater Boston. Right. So I think it benefits us to all remember that there is a mourning process whenever there is a change in our lives, be it a change that we initiate or be it a change that is initiated upon ourselves. Right. But in each situation, remember that it is a mourning that one goes through. And I think it just, it gives us more knowledge about ourselves. Right. And doesn't it all begin with ourselves?
Right. And so it's all about moving through that. And so as we begin this journey of reaching higher, we still respect our feelings as we move along the way. We still love ourselves through this journey. We always talk about that. Love yourself through everything that you're going through. We talk about this in class when we teach class, about always loving yourself through it. Don't beat yourself up. We don't need to beat ourselves up. It's past. It's gone. It's done. We can look back at it for what we need to learn from it, and then we need to move forward into that greater way of being. And I want to thank Mary Ellen Casey Reverend Mary Ellen for mentioning the name of it was Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, who had the seven stages, or modeling the 7 stages of grief. And so we go through all these different stages. And as we talk about our evolutionary vision, okay, so we know that the evolutionary vision is a part of our global theme for this year. And I like to look at 2 things that CSL has within our global vision as an organization. And I think these are important. We see a world in which each and every person lives in alignment with their highest spiritual principles, emphasizing a unity with the God of their understanding and a connection with each other. A world in which, individually and collectively, we are called to a higher state of consciousness and action. So as we begin this process of reaching higher, we want to remember that we need to remain in alignment with our spiritual principles. And so we need to pull ourselves back whenever we feel ourselves going outside of that alignment.
So when we work with ourselves, you brought up a very important point that I want to mention again. Never, ever beat yourself up on what you did, because it's all important in who makes what makes us up as we go along our journey. And raising ourselves higher occurs when we go within and do the work. Right. If we don't go within and do the work, are we ever going to raise ourselves higher?
No, we have to raise and praise ourselves. You can't depend on others to do that. It's up to you to raise and praise yourself. When you make those wonderful choices, when you make those wonderful steps forward in your reaching higher, praise yourself.
Most definitely.
Raise yourself. Love yourself. Give yourself credit. You know, we're the first ones to rip ourselves down when we do something wrong.
Would you rip yourself? Would you rip your friend down?
Exactly.
Right.
Would we do that to our friend?
No,
we would not.
So be a friend to yourself.
So be a friend to yourself.
Love
yourself.
Love yourself.
We both said that in unison. So we know
true.
There's one mind working here.
And you know, it's so important when you are doing the inner work, because a lot of the times, I can speak personally, the inner work brought up a lot of pain, a lot of stress for me, realizing what I did to my own self without knowing, of course,
right.
And at times knowing. I mean, let's be real. And it's so important at those times when it's challenging to raise and praise yourself. I believe just as you have a lunch period every day, that you're nourishing yourself with food, what about nourishing yourself every day at lunchtime along with the food with a raise and praise of yourself? I think that would be a darn good spiritual practice.
I agree. Absolutely.
We can do it through food, and we can do it through raising and praising. Equally important.
And we do all of this because the other global vision statement that I so love is that we envision humanity awakening to its spiritual magnificence. We are awakening to our spiritual magnificence. And when we awaken to our spiritual magnificence, we are ready to begin the journey. So let's begin this journey together in joy and wonder and love. Because love is probably the most important thing. You know, Ernest Holmes has this wonderful quote that just reminds me of what it means to be, you know, when we tend to be out of alignment or out of unity. And I love this quote. We experience good and evil because we perceive a presence of duality instead of unity. You see, what happens is we are drawn into duality because of our human experience. But there is unity. Now, unity, again, doesn't mean uniformity. But there is unity in the world. And there is unity in everything, because behind all that we see in the outer is the one infinite intelligence, the Mother, Father, God, as I love to call it, which shakes some people up. And that's good, because we all need to be shaken up sometimes. Right. But it's about that whole idea of unity and doing our spiritual practices to bring us back to the unity. You know, and sometimes it's just as simple as a deep breath in a moment where you feel like you're out of alignment, to just take a deep breath. Just let's all join together. Let's just take a deep breath right now. And let it go. Did you feel a difference just in that moment? I love that respiration has spirit within it, so we're re-spiriting our bodies. Re-spiriting your body. So every time you breathe deep, you're bringing in that beautiful light and love of the divine and remembering who you are. Right?
Yes.
And it's so important. It's so very important.
I'm going to ask this question that just came to mind.
Yes.
So for you, as you reach higher, if you had to pick two things, I'll say two, that help you in reaching higher, what would they be? No, that's pretty. Two things. What do you need for you to reach higher? What do you need?
I need to take the time to align myself with spiritual truth.
Okay.
So I need to take the time to do my spiritual practice to align myself with spirit.
That's one.
Okay. And what was the second part?
I don't know, but I wanted two. What do you need to do to reach reaching higher as you reach higher? So one is being in alignment with spirit.
Right. And committing to it.
Okay.
So that it doesn't, so I don't let it fall by the wayside.
So, okay, so the word dream and reality just came into my head when you said that.
Mm-hmm.
If we have a thought
Mm-hmm.
and we don't act upon it, it's a dream.
Right.
It could be a dream. It only becomes reality when you act upon your dream.
Right.
I better pick Ruby up so she stops barking.
Our young child. I want to share this because, Mary Ellen, I love what you said here. Unity is wholeness to me, and I so agree with that. I think that is just such a beautiful, beautiful statement, and thank you so much for that. You have such wisdom, my dear, and it's always so good to hear from you in that. So, the thing I want to move to now, because for me, what has become a very strong part of my life and my ministry is really deepening that idea of love and law. And I think, in our principles, we say this about love, and I want to share this with everyone. Love is the self-givingness of universal spirit through its desire to express itself in terms of creation. Love is the impulse, and law is the way of creation. Now, the important thing here is this, is that when we look at that idea of love and law, love is the impulse. That means that you and I, when we are in that alignment with love, we are that impulse that is going into the law and bringing forth the creation of what's going on in our world around us. Even when we're not so loving, we are still planting in that same law because the law is neutral. So we have to recognize and realize that this law being neutral, it accepts whatever we're putting in. So why is it important that I need to be the love?
Because the law is always working.
Right. But why is it important to be the love?
Why is it important?
Yes.
Because that's when things are manifesting in the highest possible vibration.
Yes.
In any area of your life, in any activity of your life.
Yes.
If you're coming from love, then that's what the world will experience.
Yes.
That's what you will experience. And to me, that's the best experience.
Yes. And when we understand that, this comes from back in the day when I was in nursery, when I was in Sunday school.
Nursery school.
God is love. Jesus loves the little children. Jesus loves all of us.
No.
The Christ consciousness
is
the love of God expressing as all of us. And we must move into that place. So we have to recognize and we have to realize the importance of who we are as love in the world. That is where our spiritual practice comes forth.
So when I always say, be good farmers to your garden, what does that mean? What does that mean? Check your thoughts, because your garden is your mind. So you want to cultivate the best harvest you can get. And those are the best thoughts that you have. And all of the thoughts that do not serve you, then that means it would not serve humanity.
Yes.
Those are the ones you work upon to dissolve, to pluck out of your brain, to pluck out of your consciousness, so that it doesn't seep into to manifestation.
That it doesn't come into manifestation.
Yes.
Ernest Holmes says this. It is only when we completely abandon the human will and recognize the pure essence of spiritual principle embodied in us that our thinking rises above the belief in duality. This is why we do spiritual practice, is to rise above the human experience, which is always there, to rise above that human experience and be more than who we are on that human level.
Because each and every individual, each creation of the divine has that ability, has that power within, because we're always at choice. Right? We're always at choice. You don't have to follow the guidance of the divine. You don't have to come from love. It's a choice. But where are you going to feel most harmonious inwardly and then outwardly? Through love.
How about this? We look at the fact that how do you feel when you're holding on to anger and animosity? How do you feel? What does it make you feel? Doesn't it make you feel heavy and depressed and upset and all of those things? But when we can shift from that feeling of anger and frustration and hatred and all those things, we can shift into love. Have you ever noticed that when you find that energy, when we come together as a group and we all feel that love that we have for each other, have you noticed how all of that other stuff just disappears? It's gone. We have the power to shift everything that shows up in our life with just the changing
of our consciousness,
of our feelings and our emotions and our way of thinking in that moment, and saying, I am going to be loved no matter what. I am going to be loved no matter what.
Changing your consciousness.
Changing your consciousness. And that brings me to this wonderful quote from Joel Goldsmith. It is possible for anyone to change the trend in his life. Not by hearing or reading truth, but by making it an active part of consciousness in daily experience until it becomes a habit every moment of the day instead of an occasional thought. Occasional thought. Now, Rev Ed had to excuse himself for a moment, but I want to go deeper into that because that whole idea of it just being an occasional thought, we have to move beyond that idea of being an occasional thought. We did that before we came into this teaching, where we're actually practicing something greater and something stronger in our lives. So it's very important for us to realize that the occasional thought is great, but how do we remain in that place of spiritual connection, of that place of knowing who we are in the world? Well, we do that with our spiritual practices. We do that by doing the work, by doing what needs to be done in order for us to move forward. So earlier I talked about the morning, because in August was when I came to the realization that I had to truly follow Spirit's calling in my life and move on to a new way of being in the world, being a different kind of minister in the world, being called to something higher, something greater. So I'm reaching higher as CSL Greater Boston is reaching higher into a new way of being in the world. And there is so much good that is coming out of that. I know there is.
And I'm back, and I want to say one thing too, Rev G.
Yes.
That one of the songs that I was listening to as part of my morning practice this morning was "If I Were Brave."
Yes.
And again, that can open up a whole new discussion. But I just want to say this, because I think this was an important realization I had, and I'd like to share it with everyone. Years before SOM, I thought for me to be brave, it took courage. And what I have realized now, living this philosophy, for me personally, it all is based on me having faith. So the more faith that I have, the more willing I am able to step out into the unknown and reach higher.
Right.
So another thing too, as I was hearing you when I wasn't here speaking about love and coming from love, at times, let's be real, it's always not easy. So knowing that, what helps us to get back to that would be spiritual practices. So it's essential for each one's well-being to daily do their spiritual practices.
Well, Ernest Holmes said we are a teaching order and we are a practicing order. We can learn and we can read and we can do all of these things, but unless we're bringing it into our lives,
Yes.
unless we're doing it daily in one way or another, it is not changing your life. And I can talk from my own path of being in spiritual practice sometimes and then falling out of it and then coming back, not beating myself up when I fall out of it, but coming back and saying, good, I can start again. I can start fresh, because there's only one moment, and that moment is now.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. Right now.
Here we go. The one mind is again working in its beautiful way.
And don't we all want to live that magnificence that is our birthright to have in this vibration?
Yes.
Who doesn't want to live magically and in a magnificent way?
Right.
Be grand, be big, enjoy, take it all in, live life, have gusto. And this all comes from, personally I can say it, from my spiritual practices that keeps me in alignment, that keeps me open to the impress of the divine in relation to its guidance. As much as I impress the law with my thoughts, the divine guidance impresses me because I allow it to, and I am willing to step into it.
Yes. Yes.
Because of the faith.
Yes. And I just love this that Rev M.E. said to us this morning, and that's that love and law is always pulsing and flowing through each of us. Put our heart into all I do.
Yes.
And that's what we're going to call you to do today.
Yes.
So thank you for that,
yes,
Rev M.E.
Rev M.E.
So today what I want to call everyone to do as we move into reaching higher.
Yes.
We are reaching higher into a newer way of being. That as things come up on your path in this week, I want you to take a moment to go into a meditation with these two questions. You can do it separately or you can do them all at once. But I want you to go into silent meditation this week with this question. The first one is, what is mine to do in this situation? So in anything that may be coming up in your life, what is mine to do in this situation? And the second one is, how can I contribute from love in this situation? Or even better, we could say, how can I be the love in this situation? So the two questions are, what is mine to do in this situation? And how can I be the love in this situation? And I would love to hear anything you have to say about that. Please feel free to email us. You can email us at info@cslboston.org. I would love to hear what comes up for you this week as we do this amazing, amazing practice. And those questions will also be in the newsletter this week.
Yeah. And rising higher, all having to do with transformation. Isn't that beautiful?
Yes.
And in transformation, there is that transition. There is that with the feelings that go with a transition. And the result of a transformation that is divinely guided.
And this is even a
magical
question you can ask around your mourning process as we go through the mourning of the shift and
Oh,
change
yes.
and the transition here at Center for Spiritual Living Greater Boston. So, would you like to pray folks up to be empowered to do this?
I most certainly would.
Beautiful.
And coming from that purpose, coming from the purpose that you mentioned, Reggie, which is what is mine to do in this situation and how can I contribute as love in this situation. I fully know and fully realize that the divine, that creative intelligence is all that there is. It is the flowers, it is the air we breathe, it is what we see in manifested form, it's the thoughts, it is everything. This wonderful power, this wonderful energy that vibrates like no other energy because it is the energy of the Creator in and through as each and every individual, because I know that I am one with it. And as I am one with it, I am made in its image and likeness. And as I am made in its image and likeness and is one with it, so isn't Rev G, so isn't our community, so isn't everyone in the world. Each one is a representation and an expression of this magnificent, nurturing, loving energy. It's always supportive. It is always there. It is always present. And being made in that image and likeness, I know that as each one expresses from love, and I know that as each one knows what is theirs to do, that there is a strength that comes from that. There is a wholeness that comes from that. There is a unity that comes from that. And that brings about a raising of the world and humanity. So from our individual selves expressing and reaching higher and shining our light, it does good for the individual and it does good for all of humanity. I see people walking around with smiles and energy flowing out of them that is happy and joyous and prosperous and abundant and supportive and loving. It's a feeling that just radiates from this type of living, this type of alignment, this type of faith, knowing that the divine has it all, and each one of us are here for the ride, open to its guidance, open to its love, that each of us can experience it personally and then share it globally. I am so grateful, knowing that I know this, knowing that I proclaim it here and now, that this is it. This is each one shining brightly as each one reaches higher and vibrates and shines magnificently, more and more each day. The gusto of life is experienced by all. So please join me in releasing this prayer into the Lord this morning, knowing that this, or something better, is manifesting right here and right now for everyone. And so it is.
And so it is. Woo! Wow. You knocked that one out of the park, Rev Ed. You had some fire going on there. There was definitely some fire in the belly. That was such a beautiful thing.
Thank you.
So as we ask the question, if you have been spiritually fed by our community, let's move into our giving statement so that we can share this together as we read this together. Sharing our gifts. It is the nature of life to give of itself. And it is the tree's nature to bear fruit and the flower's nature to bloom. It is my nature to share the gifts of my time, talent, and treasure. I participate in the divine flow of life, giving generously and receiving abundantly. I am blessed and I am a blessing. I am grateful.
I love that, Rev G.
And since we are virtual this morning, the ways for you to give to our community are you can do texting give. You can text give to, well, give and the amount to 833-581-0669, or you can go to paypal.me/CSL Greater Boston. You will also find a link on our website at cslboston.org where you can click on that and it will actually take you to the PayPal account so that you can give to us. Remembering that your generous financial gifts are vital to our community.
And its vision.
Yes. Speaking of vision. We have our weekly visioning that goes on here at Center for Spiritual Living Greater Boston as we go through our transition process. This is a perfect time for the vision to be rised up into a greater way of being. You can join us Wednesday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. This is weekly. You will find the Zoom link in the newsletter. Here it is here. It is the meeting ID of 85193. 126328. with the passcode of Vision with a capital V. And as many may know, if they don't, they will now. Rev Ed and I will have our final live activity at the center in Medford, Mass, where we are meeting. We will be there on September 12th. In person. And would love to see anyone we haven't seen in a long time. We love so many people. We love everybody and miss all of their wonderful presence. So if you can come and be there present with us, we would absolutely love it.
Yes.
We do have a leadership council afterwards, but we do have some time for fellowship after the service. And we look forward to seeing everyone that maybe we haven't seen in a long time before we head back to California and our new movement into a new way of being in the world.
Yes.
So, of course, we'll still be in active service to the community until the 8th of August. So
August? No,
October. Thank you, Rev Ed, for that. So we look forward to seeing you next week.
Love to see you. We would love to see you. Yes.
Awesome. So we just want to wish everyone a wondrous and glorious and beautiful day.
Yes.
And together we say, Namaste.